Is buy-to-let worth it? In 2019, I purchased a lovely apartment on St Andrew's Square in the merchant city of Glasgow. It has a front door and a car parking space. Its approximate value today is around £155,000. The key statistics are: rent is £750, service charge £90, maintenance £130, agent fees £90 and other costs £15 all per month. Total costs around £325 or 43% of rent. Now let's take a look at the rent yield calculator and input the other variables. Entering the name of the property so we can see that in the final report. We're in Scotland, so purchase tax doesn't need to change, and let's select currently owned property. We now come on to selecting the income inputs. Valuation, let's set valuation at the 155,000 previously mentioned. Mortgage deal for 5 years. We're going to borrow 75%. Occupancy, we're going to lift that to 97%. And marginal tax, we'll leave that at 42%, which is the Scottish higher rate. Mortgage fee, we'll leave at 700. Mortgage rate, we're going to set to 5.2. Rent, we'll put at 750. Expenses at 43%. Tax credit doesn't need to change. And we can see our net cash on cash return minus 5.5%. or 9.5 worse than the benchmark. I'm going to set the benchmark slightly easier for cash on cash returns at 3%, but that still gives us a minus 8.5% relative to the benchmark. Capital growth, let's get a bit more optimistic for capital growth and see if capital growth can get us out of trouble. We'll put in 6% per annum, and now we can see we get a forecast total annual return of 2.4%. It's not horrific, but it's not fantastic either. Let's look at attribution from revenue to cash, and we can use this waterfall chart to see that our revenue of 8,730 is eaten up by, firstly by expenditure, then by tax, and then by finance, which is nearly £5,000, giving us a cash outflow of over £2,000. If we lower the mortgage rate, we can improve things somewhat, and marginal tax can also make a significant difference. We can then take a look at this returns attribution table. Focusing on debt, we can see how much of a negative return we get from the debt, 2834 cash outflow. We can then see this graphically through cash apportion returns and debt apportion return waterfall charts below. Looking at rent growth can save the day. If rents were to increase 75% in this case, we would get to a break-even level. If we then look at risk and rates, that's mortgage rates. We can see the break-even mortgage rate here is 2.9%. And we can then play around with all of these variables down here to see how the break-even rate is affected. We can see the break-even rent for a given mortgage rate, and at 5.2% we can see that this comes out at £1,317 per month in rent. We can also look at tax insight. Just to reiterate, tax is very important, second only really to interest rates, I would say. And finally, we can look at a summary, and we can see that we have an outflow of 2129 before capital growth, and after capital growth the total return is 2.4% per annum, but that assumes a very meaty annual price increase of 6% over a 10-year period. So in conclusion, this property really looks like one that I should be selling when it comes up for refinancing in early 2025, unless I'm able to get a much more favourable mix of lower interest rates and higher rents. Thank you.